Would I have preferred a draw or a similar one? Yes, but again, it's external. I've no control over that, so I try not to focus too much on it. So, ideally, you're not wanting them open up that bit of a gap, but again, I can only affect what's in front of me in terms of what's in my building and who we're going to play, which is obviously Ross County. So, I think they've had a wee bit of a bump since the managers went in. So I don't really read too much into it more than that, in all honesty. I think it's always within your own hands, and that's the part you've got to understand. You've got to understand it is try and block out the external noise, so to speak, but that's the difficult part, because they're footballers, we're managers, we're coaches doing their job in the public eye, so there's always that outside scrutiny, that outside pressure, which becomes a wee bit more difficult, let's be honest, with social media. So it's just about me trying to explain to the players that we take one game at a time. That's kind of how I've always coached, and for those reasons, if I'm honest, you take one day at a time. You don't focus on the past, which you can't affect. You focus on the future, which you've got a semi-control over, so to speak. So it's just about focusing on the internal noise in the next game of football. I think it's fine margins at this level. I think it's fine margins that we never have been at this level, do you know what I mean? So I think the players understand that we've not really had the rub of the green, but we've not helped ourselves at the same time. So we've understood every game, we look at every game, and there's games you'll come in here on the Sunday or the Monday and say, well, we were well beat there, we never laid a glove on them, or we'll come in and we'll look through the game. So I don't think we're a million miles away, but we definitely need to change something as a group. But that's where you look at probably your more experienced players, and that's why you've got them in the building. So I think we've got a good balance between younger players and experience within the building. So that's where we just need to all stick together, stick together and keep pushing in the same direction, which is, let's be honest, it's the difficult part. When you're losing games of football, that's when the fingers come out. And when the fingers comes out, that's when obviously it becomes a little bit more difficult. So it's just about controlling what we can control. And I genuinely do believe this. I think it's the first year I've been in a relegation battle in the Premier League. But do you know what, Jamie? That's testament to the staff and the players at the club and who have been at the club. So I think we've been punching well above our weight the previous 5 years. And I know 100% we've got more than enough to keep us in the Premier League this year. And I think there's a lot of twists and turns to come in the Premier League season. It probably does. I'm not going to sit and tell you lies. You're sitting at the start of a season, and I'd be a liar to sit here and say I'd rather be going through a poor run of form with points in the table than a poor run of form with a low amount of points in the table. So yeah, it does feel different, but it's important that I remain pragmatic and I remain realistic and I put it into perspective. There's 3 big words for me. But I think that's really, really important. You've got to put it into context, and I sit and I look at Champions League games and we just need, like, you look at what Celtic and Rangers are up against in the Champions League in terms of budgets, and that's not an excuse for me, by the way, but it's the same analogy when you look at that in European football. Like, I watched the game with Celtic last night. I thought they were well within the game, and they changed it 3 minutes or 5 minutes, whatever it was. They were 2-0 down. But it's just the difference at that level, and it feels a wee bit like that now. We're going through a sticky patch ourselves, and it's just most things are going against us. It can go against you, but you know what? It's only us that can change that environment. I like a challenge. I don't mind adversity. Well, I'd rather not have it, but I don't mind dealing with it. And it's just about us as a group getting us out of this situation as quick as possible. But again, go back to my interviews at the cup stages, go back to my interviews pre-season. I think I was on record saying this. I knew this was going to be the most difficult season I've had in the Premier League, and it's proven me right. But that doesn't mean there's no hope and we just gave up. It's nothing like that at all. I know within the group of players that I've got in that changing room, I know, and with the staff I've got and myself, I know we've got more than enough to stay in this league. But that in its own is not enough to stay in the league. I think now it's look at Livingston, poor form. So I think you've got to be realistic. Don't like talking about other teams, but you look at circumstances elsewhere as well. I think speak to other managers as well. I think social media plays a huge part in that now. And the atmosphere within social media can lead to the atmosphere within the terraces, does that make sense? I think, but this is generally the first year I feel, every year the primary objective is stay in the league. But I don't think we've ever found ourselves in this position in terms of bottom of the table after match day 14. So that's where the difference is. Do you know what I mean? After 14 games we're bottom of the league. It's normally, we've never really been in that position. So that's the difference. But I think pundits, media, however you want to say it, every year, Livingston for relegation, Livingston for relegation, Livingston for relegation. And one year they're going to get it right at some point. I just hope it's not going to be this year, but that doesn't mean they've been right previously, if that makes sense, because when you don't get relegated they never come back out and say. But I think it's just a dose of realism is needed slightly about, and I think this is the first time, again, Livingston have been in the Premier League in its existence for 6 years. Now that's been that player, that group of players, that group of staff that's actually achieved that. So in Livingston's existence, it's never been in the Premier League for 6 years. Now it doesn't take a rocket science to look at that and go, why not? It's financial stability, surely. It comes down to financial stability. This year has been huge cuts. It was huge losses last year, huge cuts this year. Hence coming into the season, I knew it was going to be a difficult season. So it probably feels a little bit abnormal for some, but it doesn't for me, because I kind of thought this would be how the season was going to be. Does that make sense? It wasn't new to me, this isn't new to me. It's a new experience being where we are at this stage in the season, but I knew it was going to be a difficult season. And again, if you strip the external noise out of it, I'm not sitting looking at league tables. I'm not sitting looking at, no disrespect to what Ross County done last night. It would have been great if they never got 3 points, but it doesn't really faze what I'm doing. And for the players, it's just about us sticking together as a group and focusing on the next game. Because if you want to let the past dictate your future, you're going to be in trouble. There's a lot of baggage there that you can't change. We're not in a great place, we've not won enough games of football. So sitting here dwelling on the past isn't going to help your energy and your focus on the future. And that's the message I keep trying to send to the players. And I'll be honest, I've probably lived my life like that since 2004. I get up and I affect what I can affect in front of me. If I was to sit and kind of reminisce on the past and the decisions and the circumstances that I created myself, I don't think I'd be sitting here today. When you first go into prison and you get your sentence, it's not like a television. You don't put 1,500 days in the wall and wake up and then it's 1,499 the next day. You'd be in a mental institution if you were to approach your sentence like that. You get up, you deal with the day in front of you and you go to your bed, and then you get up and you deal with the day in front of you and you try and don't focus too much on the past, which, let's be honest, you can't affect the past. You can't affect the past, you accept it and you move on. So it's trying to explain that to the players, but I think we've got enough in the building in terms of experience, also good players that all care. They're all frustrated, they're all disappointed, and I think the one thing you could say about any Livingston team, you'll never see the players down in tools. And I think in any game that we've been in this season, you can never ever say that. We've made individual errors, we've made collective errors, but I don't think you could ever look at that park and say to them, the players are not trying. And for me, that's what we're all about. He's only really been in 2 games, hasn't he? I don't know, when did he come in last week? Wednesday or something like that? Something like that. So there's been a wee bounce, but let's not get too carried away. Also, it's 2 home games. Go through every single team in the Premier League. On paper, you're stronger at home. On paper, you're stronger at home. So I thought Malky was a tremendous manager. I know very little about Derek, but he's obviously got to be a very good manager because of the longevity he's had in the game. And I don't think you go back to a club 3 times if you're not a good manager. So I think he's obviously a very good manager. I don't know him personally myself, I've never came across him. He's managed to pick up 4 points, so fair play to him, and he's had that impact, that immediate impact over Ross County over the last 2 games.